World War II is one of the defining events of the 21st century. Regardless of how much has been written about it, new information continues to be discovered about the thousands of events that make up the 6 years that shaped the world we live in today. World War II is inextricably linked with Hitler and the Nazis. However, there is so much more to discover. In this audio book, learn about the major events that transpired around the world to create a perfect storm that allowed Hitler to rise to power. As the somewhat shaky peace of the post-war world begins to crumble and tensions begin to brew once more in Europe under Putin's ambitions, it might be more important than ever to learn from the past. This audio book will provide an overview of the war and will take an in-depth look at some topics like how the end of the First World War helped lead to the Second World War, Hitler's rise to power, conflicts and rumblings in Africa and Asia, the Holocaust, war of ideologies, the staggering number of casualties, the major battles of the war and how they impacted the war effort, and much, much more. Here's an excerpt from the audio book. More often than not, World War II is associated with the Holocaust and Hitler. While this is not untrue, it is also not quite so simple. In the 1930s, by the time Adolf Hitler came along with a desire to conquer Europe, there were already many complex issues at play. The rise of Nazism and Hitler's power grab in Europe served to create the perfect storm, unleashing a chain of events that is now known as World War II. Part 1. The War Summarized, 1939 to 1945. Chapter 1. Invasion and Attack, 1939 to 1941. Starting as early as 1931, a global crisis was brewing. There were already rumblings of disquiet and tension in many parts of Asia and Europe. The United States withdrew completely from European affairs, choosing to take an isolationist stance. However, when discussing World War II, the focus is often on Hitler's rise and fall. As such, historically, World War II is officially said to have begun with Nazi Germany's invasion of Poland in 1939. To understand why Hitler's Germany invaded Poland and why this act dragged most of the world's major players into the fray, we need to go back to 1919, to the end of the First World War. After 4 years of war, on November 11, 1918, an armistice was signed by the Germans and the Allied countries, officially bringing World War I to an end. A brief overview of World War I. World War I, also known as the Great War, started in 1914 with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria by Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip. With the support of German Kaiser Wilhelm II, war was declared against Serbia. Serbia turned to Russia for help, and within a week, major European players were picking sides and joining the war. The Great War was fought between the Central Powers, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, Germany, and the Ottoman Empire, and the Allied Powers, France, Russia, Italy, Great Britain, Canada, United States, Romania, and Japan. Technological advances in weapons and the use of poisonous gas led to a no-holds-bar type of war. The loss of lives was catastrophic. Over 16 million civilians and soldiers lost their lives. By 1918, it was evident the Central Powers were losing the war, and one by one they began to surrender. Germany was the last holdout. When it finally signed the armistice on November 11, 1918, World War I officially came to an end. Once the dust settled, it became apparent just how shocking the events of the war had been, and what a trail of devastation it had left around the world.